I bet I bet you didn't know there was a man who shot his wife over what he claims was boiled hot dogs. The man is named John Kovich. Him and his wife Nancy lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan, along with their 2 children. John claims that him and Nancy had gotten into an argument over boiling hot dogs for dinner, and he couldn't handle the verbal abuse from Nancy any longer, so he went into the bedroom and attempted to take his own life. He claims that is when his wife Nancy came into the bedroom, saw what he was about to do, and called him a coward. So instead of using the gun on himself, he turned it on Nancy, fatally shooting her. John then goes 2 houses down to his father's home. That's when his father Sherman called 911. Without the proper context, the 911 call sounds like a horrific accident. You can tell John is pretty upset with what he did. But the most chilling part is you can hear his children asking why he shot their mother in the background. During court, the truth came out. John and Nancy had a 10-year-old son. He said that both of his parents had been drinking that night, and John walked into the kitchen and started berating and calling Nancy names while she was helping her son boil hot dogs. Nancy then demanded the car keys and debit card, and John then threw the car keys at her face, then retreated to the bedroom where Nancy followed him. So that's what actually happened. John was sentenced to 18 to 30 years in prison. In this chilling phone call to 911, you can hear Sherman trying to console his son, John and Nancy's 2 children screaming and crying in the background, along with John confessing to what he had done, but without all the full details. So now, knowing the true story of what happened, head over to my YouTube to listen to the 911 call. It's too heart-wrenching for me to put on TikTok. Then come back and tell me what you think about this case after hearing the phone call and knowing the details I just gave you. I bet you didn't know the horrific torment that Junko Furuta went through. This video suggestion came from Everyone Loves Ashlyn. They sent me a donation and told me what they would like for me to do a TikTok on. At the end of this video, I'll explain how you can do the same. Now, I'm giving a warning. This is very, very graphic. Junko was a beautiful young woman with high dreams of becoming a singer. She went to school and then worked every single night to raise up money to go on a trip. One night on her way home, she was abducted. And the next 40 days of her life were absolute torment. She was abducted by 4 teenage boys who don't even deserve to have their names spoken. Junko was forced to call her family and tell them that she had run away and everything was fine. She was forced to do so that police would not intervene. She was just a child. She was only 17. Yet these boys around her age looked at her as if she wasn't even human. Over the course of Junko's capture, she was assaulted over 500 times. They say around 100 men contributed to this. Sometimes she would be assaulted up to 12 times a day. They forced her to shave her body, dance nude in front of them, and touch herself in front of them. They would insert foreign objects into her, including a metal rod, lit matches, and glass bottles. She was forced to drink alcohol, milk, and water. That's all she was allowed to have. She was forced to inhale paint thinner. Her arms and legs had been burnt with lighter fluid. By the end of this, she was so emaciated and so infected that she gave off a rotting smell, causing the boys to lose interest in her. They doused her in lighter fluid and put a match to her, dripped hot candle wax on her face, inserted candles into her eyes, punched her face repeatedly. She was forced to drink her own urine. They continuously dropped an iron exercise ball onto her abdomen. This attack went on for 2 hours, and she finally succumbed to her injuries. The 4 boys took Junko's body and placed it in a 55-gallon drum, which they then filled with cement. One boy was sentenced to only 20 years, and the other 3 under 10. They've all already been released, though some reoffended, and others bragged about their part in the crime. Have a specific subject or story you would like for me to cover on my TikTok? Here's how you can do so. You can send a donation to my Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. Just make sure to include your username in the notes. I'll follow you back and send you a message. Then you can tell me what you would like for me to do a TikTok on. Y'all, this Junko case messed me up. It like really got to me. I bet you didn't know these creepy facts that'll give you nightmares. The marriage between Joanna of Castile and Philip the Handsome of Burgundy was a very interesting one. When Philip died, Joanne refused to let him go. I mean, literally. She would not let them bury his body. And finally, his father and the government had to step in, demanding that she allow them to bury him. Their separation did not last long. She had Philip's body exhumed. From that moment, everywhere that Joanna went, Philip went with her. Usually the coffin was kept closed. After a few years, she finally let them bury Philip again. But it had to be directly outside of her window. There are over 250,000 deaths a year due to medical error. That's because doctors' handwriting is so sloppy, a prescription is put in wrong, or something is done wrong during a surgery. So doctors actually sometimes end up killing their patients on accident. There was once a case where a man was complaining of issues in his lungs. They thought it was a tumor. When they went to go investigate it, they were horrified to realize he had inhaled a pine seed and had a tree growing in his lungs. Criminologists estimate that at least 200,000 murders have gone unsolved since the 1950s. There's a 1 in 3 chance police will never identify your killer if you are murdered. If the sun exploded, you wouldn't know it for at least 8 minutes. The energy from the explosion would be traveling at the speed of light, which means it would take about 8 minutes and 20 seconds until it hit Earth. I bet you didn't know about Herb Ballmeister. This video suggestion came from IL Pack Fan. They sent me a donation, then told me what they would like for me to do a TikTok on. I'll explain how you can do the same at the end of this TikTok. From 1980 to 1996, in Westfield, Indiana, Herb seemed like a successful man with a very normal married life. A wife, 3 children, successful business, but he had a very dark secret. He used gay bars as his hunting grounds. He would go by the name Brian Smart while there. In 1993, a patron from one of the bars approached police, said that a man named Brian Smart had attempted to kill them and had successfully killed one of their friends. Police said if he saw this Brian man again, to get some sort of information about him. So he got his license plate number. The car wasn't registered to a Brian Smart. It was Herb Ballmeister. When approached, Herb absolutely refused to let police search his property. They then asked his wife, and she also said they could not. It wasn't until 3 years later in 1996 that Herb's wife Nancy started to become scared. She said over time his behavior became erratic. He had vicious mood swings, which caused her to file for divorce. Then while Herb was on vacation alone, she gave police access to the property to do a search. Found on their property was the bodies of 11 deceased men. Herb panicked when he caught wind of this and fled to Ontario, Canada, where he then took his own life. He left behind a letter claiming that his failing marriage and failing business was his reason for doing this. He admitted absolutely nothing to the murders or said a word about the bodies found on his property. But those weren't his only victims. Herb is suspected of killing 9 more men and dumping their bodies as well. Have a specific story or subject you would like for me to do a TikTok on? Here's how you can do so. You can send a donation to my Venmo, PayPal, or Cash App. Just make sure to include your username in the notes. I'll follow you back and then send you a message. Then you can tell me what you would like for me to do a TikTok on. Hey y'all, I don't usually do personal posts like this, but I know it's been pretty obvious that there's been something wrong. So I've had this bearded dragon named Taijo. I got her 2 weeks after I left my very abusive ex-fiance. And I know it's been pretty obvious that there's been something wrong. So I've had this bearded dragon named Taijo. I got her 2 weeks after I left my very abusive ex-fiance. And that was almost 7 years ago. So she's been a constant in my life for almost 7 years. Well, about a month ago, she got cancer. And it happened really, really fast. And I had to make the decision today to put her to sleep. So obviously I haven't been myself because this has been coming. I knew this was coming. So I know I haven't been active in my comments. I haven't been responding to messages. I seem sad when making content. It's because I knew I was about to have to make the toughest choice ever and euthanize one of my beloved pets. She was the greatest dragon of all time. All of my family and friends were super attached to her too. And I just wanted to share this with y'all, along with some of my absolute favorite and cutest pictures of her over the past 7 years. She knew her name, she recognized voices. My routine was to wake up every single morning, turn on her lights and say, "Good morning, Ty." But it totally sucks because I don't get to do that anymore. Her being euthanized was very peaceful, and I was able to bury her outside in my yard. And I'm going to be making her her own headstone over the weekend. So if I'm not as active and not as happy and bubbly as usual, it's because I lost one of my best friends. I just wanted to give y'all an update so you guys didn't think I was just backing out. Losing a pet of any kind is really tough, especially one that you had for so long and had such a big impact on you. Now, before you go, "Oh, it was just a lizard," because I've already been told that. No, she wasn't just a lizard. She was absolutely way more than that. So thanks, you guys. I hope everybody understands if I'm a little MIA. Just need to have my moment to mourn. I love y'all and thank you guys so much for the support. That's why I'm filling y'all in about this. I'll try to get back on making consistent content as usual. I just need some time. Hey y'all, I